This week we are going to work on a paper mini, and we're going to make something new, but it's going to look like it's been around for a long time. Don't worry, the aging is optional. You can make these look new or you can make them look really old. Join me and see how easy and fun this project is. All right, as you saw in the introduction, we are making some math cards and multiplication cards, and they're supposed to look like vintage ones. This is the newest product in the 1/3 scale, or for the 18-inch dolls, from paperminis.com. And if you guys have followed my blog for any length of time, you know how much I love Anne's paper printies from her site. So this just came in the mail the other day, and I'm really excited to show you how it goes together. So you get the disc in the mail. On the 1/3 scale, everything comes on a CD, and Anne has it in a nice cardboard folder so it comes to you nice and safely. And then you can print off however many you want. So it takes the stress out of maybe making a mistake on one of your printies. And this is the first page, so I've printed out both pages to show you. You get, on this particular one, you get two pages. You get kind of an instruction, an overview, shows a nice photo of what the finished product will look like, and a few instructions and tell you a few hints. And this is the page of our printies that we're going to do. I printed this out on a matte photo paper. I chose that for a couple of reasons. I wanted a photo paper because that will make my ink look its best. Photo paper, it's made to look good when you print on it. I chose a matte for a couple of reasons. Number one, it won't crack. A shiny, glossy surface many times will crack when you fold it. And also because these are vintage and I'm going to make them look old in the end, I didn't want a shiny surface. So there's a couple of ways to start. I'm going to start by doing most of my scoring before I cut out. I find, and I'm using to both cut on and score on top of, this is just one of those mats. It's an old one that I used to use for rotary cutting fabric for quilting. To score with, I'm going to use two things. Now, Anne recommends a metal edged ruler. I've got several of these quilting rulers that are made to cut against, and I use those. I'm going to line this up with my score line. There's a score line right here on all these cards. There's several on the box pieces. So I'm going to get started, and then I won't bore you by doing all the scoring on camera. And I'm going to try and not mess this up because I really want to score it correctly the first time. My favorite tool to score with is actually a dental pick. For this, I'm not using my scoreboard on this because that makes just too fat of a scored line for these little printies. Just draw a line, hold it like a pencil, and just like you're drawing a line with a pencil. Line up. Make sure you're lined up with everything. And I'll score these two later off camera. I'll show you how to score the box. There's some very faint blue lines, so they'll blend in once our box is completed, but we still know where to score. So find all of your lines, line your ruler up, so you'll be scoring right on that line. Hopefully I'm on it, and score. I'm going to complete all my scoring, and then I'll be back. Alright, that just took me a couple of minutes, and all the fold lines are now scored. Be sure that you don't miss. There's actually 3 lines on this little centerpiece. Now I'm going to use my same ruler, and I'm going to start cutting with a craft knife. I'll line my ruler up just right so I get just on the edge. And this is one of those knives that you can break the blades off. I always start with a new blade when I'm going to do a craft like this. It's really important to have a nice sharp blade. Line up And be very careful you don't cut either crooked or into another piece. So I'm going to cut around all of, I like to cut the furthest outlines first. Your cutting order is whatever you are most comfortable with doing. Personally, I like to cut it out this way, but you may have a different order that feels better for you. And I missed on that one. I'm off by just a little bit. We don't want any places where we're off. Line this up. There. Cut this off. Take your time with the cutting and the scoring, because the better job you do, the more neat you are at this step, it determines how nice your project comes out. Now sometimes I continue with the knife, and sometimes I actually move to a pair of really small scissors at this point. I will, I think, do the knife. Be careful where you start and kind of plan out in your brain what needs to be cut off. I'm going to cut just the straight ones here. I think I'm going to move to scissors. This is getting kind of tight. I'll move to scissors now. Sometimes in these tighter areas, it's just better to use scissors. So I'm going to continue that way around this. I'll show you one of these, and then I will continue cutting out the rest off camera, so you don't have to sit through me cutting out, because I want to take my time. I want to make sure I get these done really nicely so that my project comes out really nice. Okay, release the first batch from the page. I'm a little crooked, so I'm going to have to come in and neaten that up. I'll do that off camera though, but I'm going to cut these into strips and then I'll cut them apart. And quite frankly, I'd rather cut these a little bit big than too small. I can always trim back. I can't add it back on. Now I'm going to go back to scissors, and I'm going to toss my scissors on the floor and lose them. They're there. Now I'm not going to cut the little the rounded parts out. That I'm going to do when I get this all finished. So I'm going to cut them all out to that point. When that's all done, I'll be back again. Alright, I have all the pieces cut out and I have pre-folded everything on the score lines. So now I'm going to set the cards off to the side while I work on the box. So we know the box, we're going to kind of dry fit this box together. We're going to take this box up, we're going to fold it. So I want to fold these edges up and make sure everything is going to fit. Yeah. Now I'm going to put some glue off to the side. It's even showing on camera. Move this so it doesn't shadow my paper. Get out a toothpick, because I really don't like working from the bottle of glue. Now, I'm going to apply glue all the way along here. And I have some clamps over to the side ready to go, so that when I get this glued, I can clamp it right away. Alright, so fold this up. And sometimes it really feels like you need a couple of hands, but you'll get it eventually. Okay, make sure that's tucked in. Make sure this end is tucked in. And make sure your corners are nice and straight and that your edge is glued down nice and smooth. And then grab a couple of clamps. And I've got these clamps, I got these at Dollar Tree. Whoops. This edge. If your tab kind of tries to escape, make sure you get it back in before you clamp and before you let this glue dry. You want those corners nice and square. You find you don't even have to clamp these for very long, because once they are kind of stuck down, they'll stay pretty well. All right, now make sure that that is just the way you want it. And now we might as well get a little more glue out. Sometimes I let the edges dry first before I do the ends on something like this, and sometimes I do them right away. Today, since I'd like the video to not take me all day to film, I think I'll just do them right now. Make sure everything is sitting, that everything is square, and come back through here later. I'll come back in a few minutes and I'll make sure that that is where I want it. Now I'm going to put glue down just the center of this. I'm going to glue that. And I'm going to repeat the same process on the lid. When this glue is all dry, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so the box lid is dry and I clamped this, so let's go ahead and put these in there. Now that's all ready, so now it's time to start with the cards. I'll do a couple on camera and the rest I'll do off camera. I've pre-folded everything and I'm just going to use glue stick. And I am going to get, hold on, I should have gotten this before I started. I just have some, this is just parchment paper. This way I don't get everything all over my tray. I like the glue stick that's purple when it's wet. That way I can be sure I get everything covered really well. And glue them down. And we'll trim up and make everything all even after the glue is dried. So I'll do one more, making sure I'm not laying it on top of the glue. And so rather than have you sit here and watch me glue all of these, I'm going to do those off camera. When these are dry, I'll come back and we'll do the next step. Alright, so once our glue is dry, we've got a couple more steps. One is the corners on these are supposed to be rounded. So I like to use manicure scissors because they're curved. It makes making a rounded corner really easy. Kind of go around, make sure everything is trimmed up the way you want it. Now, I want mine to look really old. So I'm going to make them look like this. I'm going to age it. So to do that, I've got a couple of little distress inks. These are sold where they have rubber stamping stuff. And I'm just kind of hitting it. This one is called Old Paper. And it's just kind of a beigey, greenish, almost a greenish beige color. And I'm going to pretty much just kind of plop it on here. I want this to look like it's just been around forever. Then the other step I'm going to do on each is vintage photo. That's a darker color. It's kind of a sepia brown. And I'm just going to hit the edges. And I'm going to go from both sides. And if it goes over on the front, that's okay. And I may even take an emery board and kind of hit it and take some color off. Now on the lid of the box, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. First let's take some vintage photo to this. Or first the old paper first. I want it to look like it's been around forever, like this is something that's come out of somebody's attic. And then the vintage photo on the edges. This just goes kind of on the edges. It kind of makes it just look like it's just really worn and old. Now this step is obviously very optional. If you want yours to look new and shiny, you know, like they're brand new, that's cool. Do that. Then I'm going to hit the edges, hit around different areas with the emery board. Kind of take the color back, kind of take off some of the blue too, some of the printing. Kind of think about where things might have gotten, you know, stuff on them. Maybe even hit one there. Just however you want it, you can age it. I'm going to age the rest of these and then I'll come back when I'm all done. Alright, the ink is all dry and these are all ready to set in a scene with my dolls. They look like they've been around for 100 years, which was the whole idea I was going for. So I'm really happy with this project. I hope you enjoyed this project. Be sure and check out the blog post. I'll have some more information there. If you check out Anne's site, let her know I sent you over to see it. And come back next week and see what we do then. Bye.